All right, so the theme here is continued into kind of overstimulation, right? Um, that's what I want to talk about in this video because I'm realizing that throughout my entire life, that's been like a very major theme, right? Um, Discipline is something that has been introduced into my life over the past, I'd say, 5 to 7 years, and it's been a very necessary element. Discipline is just in general a necessary element to the foundation of a good life because if you're not disciplined, you're going to just have a life that's all over the place. And that's something that I've learned because before I ever even considered having daily, I should say, morning and nighttime routines, my energy was just all over the place and it was random and it would be invested in just random things that never really led to anything, that never really went anywhere, right? And that's why it's so important to have that sense of groundedness, right? Routine grounds you, but routine is rooted um, in discipline, right? So, for instance, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that you do? Well, the first thing that I do is meditate. I meditate for 15 minutes. What's important to me is that I master the first hour of my day. No technology, no anything. If you want to be in control of your life, you have to be in control of where your energy and awareness is directed, right? And if the first thing that you do in the morning is open up your phone, you're giving your power away immediately. So that's kind of that's what I've learned over the past few years now, and it's really helped me to kind of shape my day-to-day life in a very meaningful way. However, what has also been relevant in my life throughout these years is overstimulation, right? I've noticed, I think I started noticing this about like a year ago, that I shape my life in a really good way, right? Like I have the morning routine in place, I have the nighttime routine in place, but then it's like from morning till night, what happens? And it's like, okay, well, it's apparent to me that I give my awareness, my energy to things that are really unimportant. But this is also as a result of what it is that I've learned growing up about, what to do with my time and energy, right? And, you know, it's also interesting because I never really learned anything specific to do with my time and energy. That's actually kind of like a weird thing to say, and I wouldn't really say it that. What I would say is that I learned to not put my needs first. Right? So if you don't put your needs first, you're going to kind of be confused as to what to do with your awareness and your energy, right? Because putting your needs first is just not going to happen. I was taught to put everyone else's needs before my own. And that is how my life unfolded, literally in that way. Um, and I was also like you could say either trained or conditioned into being highly attuned to people's emotions, right? So with that, I learned that I not only could I not put myself first, but I also had to be on alert for what other people needed, right? So I lived a life, many years actually. I lived a life of just giving my time and energy to people because I thought that that's what my role was. I thought that's what I was supposed to do because I was conditioned and, just like I don't know. I was trained for that. It's so interesting to reflect on, right? And then my relationships were formed around that, right? Um, I saw people with help me signs, with save me signs on them. I learned to play the role of the rescuer, and that was very safe and comfortable for me. That's codependency, learning to sacrifice your own needs for the needs of other people. And of course, that usually starts very early on in childhood. It's just so interesting because like at this point in my life now, what I've learned is okay, well, if you're going to do this, that, and the other for other people, ask yourself, why you're doing it. Are they actually incapable of taking care of themselves, right? Um, and it's just so interesting to go from there. But I realize now the theme of this was going to be overstimulation, and actually I realize now this correlates. I can parallel those because the reason why I've become so overstimulated is because when you're raised in an environment of chaos, right? Um, Chaos, stress, unpredictability, all that stuff becomes familiar to you. So you continue to seek that out, and then thus you become overstimulated, right? But the way that I seeked that out before there was social media was tuning into people's energies to feel a sense of safety. Because, of course, chaos, unpredictability, feeling like I couldn't be okay unless everyone else was okay, and if everyone else was not okay, it was my responsibility to change that, which it wasn't, of course, but this was a belief that I learned. So, um, yeah, I learned through years and years to become overstimulated, like crazy. And it's just so interesting how that unfolded. And then, social media kind of came about, and that was like another reinforcement of it all. But there's also my hypothesis that, like, listen, I'm not here to bash on social media. This is the direction that we're meant to be headed in. We're turning more and more into a virtual world. I'm just very fascinated by how social media works. And whenever you go onto social media, right? Well, I mean, it's predictable because you can guess that there's just going to be a bunch of stuff on there from a bunch of different people, but you never know what it's going to be. So therefore, it's unpredictable. So I'm drawing parallels between being raised in an environment of chaos and ultimately, seeking that out in social media. And I don't know how correct I am on behalf of this. I'm not claiming anything, but from what I've observed, people indulge so much in social media because it quenches that thirst of, like, I guess, the chaos and the unpredictability. And here's the interesting thing that I was just thinking about today, actually. Very, very interesting, right? If you ask somebody, do you want to be stressed? Right? But I would argue that a majority of people are going to be like, no. But then if you were to ask them, then why do you constantly seek it out? That probably makes some serious heads turn, you know? People people that come from stress, that come from chaos, they don't realize that because that's familiar to them, they're actually either unconsciously or subconsciously seeking that out, right? And so what's so interesting to me is that what I've been doing recently is instead of I have spent far less time on my phone over the past like week than I previously did. Um, I used to always like mindlessly scroll. Like, I'd have my morning routine. My morning routine would go, right? And then I'd have, the middle part of the day, and then I'd have the nighttime routine. The morning routine was solid. I won the first part of the day, right? Then the middle of the day was just like random. Like, I had goals and stuff, but it's like I wasn't following through with them. And then when the nighttime came, it's like, okay, here's the time to get ready for bed. I'm going to do my yoga, I'm going to do my meditation, my goals, all that stuff. It's so interesting how